sometimes I get hard on myself and I'm like, oh, if I had just pushed a little harder, I could have been down a little bit more. But I'm like, you know what? I'm doing great. I'm feeling great. And ultimately, like I still have all those tools. I'm still utilizing them. And so I can push harder when I'm ready to.
Honestly, you're doing incredible. And what was your final amount?
So I'm at 45 pounds.
That's what I had. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything.
Yeah, I can't, I keep hoping that it's going to nudge further. But I'm just kind of at this plateau for a little bit and I'm bracing it because I'm way better than I was a year ago. So
Totally. Well, I'm so excited for you to share. Part of the reason, I don't know if I wrote this in my message or I was just thinking in my head. Part of the reason is because it was a bumpy start.
yes.
And I don't know like how comfortable you are sharing about that, but I think that's a huge hiccup for a lot of people is they start something when the bumps hit, then they're like, well, this just isn't going to work. This isn't for me. And I remember, and again, we can talk in depth or the whole purpose of these calls. And this is what I tell everyone that jumps on. Our first mom, and she's in the inner or not in the inner circle anymore, but she's in the success stories. Her name was Wendy. And I was just like, I want to tell this story because it's so cool. And I know so many people would relate. And my husband, Dave, was the one that was like, you can't tell people stories. Like they need to be the ones that tell their own stories. And I was like, no, you're totally right. And then I thought of your story. And I remember there was a moment where Jenna was like, I'm just not going to get on a call with Lisa until she tells me she's checked off these boxes of what I asked her to do. And it was that moment for Jenna that was, it was a hard moment, coaching moment, because you want to be as like supportive and friendly, but she was just like, kind of, I know that she needs to do it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like from what I understand, that was like a really big turning point. And all of a sudden it was just like, totally different, but you had to work through. Am I right? Wrong?
It was. So, normally right. I've started this journey how many times? It's the same journey. It's been just reiteration after reiteration for my entire adult life. And, every time I start it, I'm like supercharged and I'm full of gusto. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to tackle the world. I'm going to lose 50 pounds in 3 weeks. It's going to be great. And you just have like all of the hope and joy in the world. But I was actually coming off of a program that I had just finished, like a year-long program that was not as successful as I had hoped it would be. And I was kind of deflated and I was kind of skeptical, but I'd been stalking you for several months. And so so finally Jenna and I had a call when you were in the Olympics, and she was like, what would make this worth it to you? And I said, I don't ever want to have to do another program again. And she kind of reminded me of that. And then especially when I kind of got started because I had recently been laid off. And so I was nervous about, putting money into it. And she encouraged me to look at it as an investment, and just kind of think of it that way. And so I did, I thought about it and I was like, you know what, like all the programs that I've done, adding them up and all the stress and anxiety and depression and everything over the years from this problem. And if my goal truly is for this to be the last program, then there's not a price you can put on that, and so initially it got going and I was like, okay, cautiously optimistic here. And I didn't just fire out of the gate, I wasn't just like firing on all cylinders. And I was like, I think that's when you probably were getting those messages from Jenna, like, I don't know what's going on here. But she reminded me like, Lisa, all of these other programs, you've started off fast out of the gate and then you've burned out. So what if this is a good thing that you're starting off with sustainability in mind, and with that, not only the long-term goal, obviously we all have the long-term goal of looking better, feeling better, health and wellness, all of that, but the even longer term goal of this is the last time I'm doing this. And I remember telling a friend of mine, and she has been on this journey with me, and we've both been trying to, get healthier. And I said, I'm tired of having this conversation. I'm tired of, you know, recounting or justifying what we've done, what we've eaten, what activity we've done in terms of checks and balances. I don't want to have that conversation anymore. I want to move on to more exciting things, like what are we doing for vacation, or what are we going to do for our birthdays, And, and so that was really kind of a moment, but especially when Jenna said, this is not how you've started any other program. So maybe this will mean that this will end differently for you as well. And so that really motivated me to kind of like, okay, I'm going to put my boots on, put my big girl pants on, and I'm just going to dive in. And honestly, I feel like I was telling my sister this morning, I was like, I feel like I'm not even really using the program to its full potential yet. But again, with that sustainability in mind, I'm like, I'm doing what I have the capacity to do right now. And I think the more I progress in my journey, the more I can uncover from that and from those resources, and go even deeper. And so I know I'm really not near the end of my journey, not just because I haven't reached, whatever goal it is, which I don't really even have a goal, which is another thing too. Like normally I'm like, I'm going to take 17 before pictures and I'm going to, take measurements. And I know I was supposed to do that, but I didn't, because I wasn't super motivated. And now I'm like, oh, this is the time I should have done that. And so I just have to go off of the things that I know and see every day, which is honestly much, much better for me anyways, because how often do I look at those before and after pictures versus I have a growing stack in my room. I refuse to get rid of anything until I have a big enough stack to fill a box. And so as I grow out of clothes the opposite way, I'm stacking them up in my room. And, it's kind of become this thing with my husband. He's like, oh, your stack's getting bigger. And I'm like, yeah, it is. And I'm getting smaller. So
that is incredible. And I'm glad you shared. And also, these conversations are the best. And I need to introduce you. This is Lisa. Can we just roll with this? Cause that was so good. Lisa is amazing. Honestly, I'm so glad you shared that story, because the start, as I said to Jen, I'm like, I really hope Lisa will say yes to chat with me, because I know there's going to be the majority of people that will watch this that will go, oh my gosh, that's so me. Either balls to the wall and burn out, because like you said, just like go with the gusto, like you're in it, and then all of a sudden a couple weeks or months go by and you're like,
yeah,
no way. Yeah, like seem like a good idea in theory, but like there's no way I can continue to do this. And two, the fact that you had a slower start. And I did talk to Jenna a lot at the beginning of your program about you specifically, about like, hey, how are we going to get her mind on board to essentially trust, right? That's essentially what it came down to, was like, how do we get her to just like let go? Because again, all of those things that we've done in the past, and I just did a video on this actually, I consider them micro failures. Like these are these little things that just didn't work, and we blame ourselves, but really it just wasn't the thing for us. Right. But we take it personally, but in my head, Lisa, I'm like, who is going to be able to fully eat keto for the rest of their life? Like, I don't blame that on, yeah, totally. I don't blame that on the person, because I'm like, that's not the person's, like, I wouldn't consider that the person's fault. But when we try keto, I'm just using that as an example because everybody knows what it is. And that's the hot thing right now, is like people are doing keto. When it doesn't work, we are like, oh, we're a failure. It's never going to work. It's me. And so, people understand both the like balls to the wall, and they understand, okay, I'm not getting results. And here's what we hear a lot. Well, if in the first month, if I'm not getting results, like, well, why? I'm putting all this effort in and nothing's happening. And that's where we have to really switch where our brain is. And exactly like Jenna said, reframe it. Like, okay, Lisa, how is the slow start working for you? Well, it's something you've never done before.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was able to keep you going. And at the end of the day, if we can just go, okay, to the next day, let's see what we can do. Okay, to the next day, let's see what we can do. What would you say is one of the things you're most proud of?
I mean, probably just like I said earlier, I was hoping, I've been kind of at this plateau for almost 2 months. And it's easy to get frustrated about that, but I'm like, hey, I didn't gain weight during the holidays and I went to Mexico. So I mean, that's huge for me. So I'm proud of my plateau. I'm proud of not going up and down. Of course we have our day to day if you're bloated or if you have, you drink or whatever. But at the end of at the end of 2 or 3 days, at the end of a week, I've consistently stayed down 45 pounds for over 2 months. And that's really exciting to me. And I try to be a glass half full kind of person. And so instead of looking at it as a plateau, I look at it as sustainability and just I'm maintaining, yeah, that doesn't mean that there isn't more to come off, but I'm maintaining what I've done so far. And I mean, in every experience in my life, I don't know that I've maintained anything for 2 months after a program. So that's a big win for me, just kind of looking at it that way and kind of recognizing my continued success even though I'm not progressing in the way that I thought I would, if that makes sense.
100%. But this is why this is why I get so excited, because life is going to go on forever. And I try and explain to people, I love your cup. I try and explain to people, listen, like this is forever. This isn't the short term, just like do this thing. This is going to be our forever. And if you can feel like you have a life and cause this is what we say, the goal isn't for us to constantly just talk about what are you eating? And like you said, the checks and balances, like who wants to live their life constantly worried about all of the things that aren't part of your life, but are just, what are you eating? How much did you eat? What did you exercise? What was that energy balance? Like, I know I just saw a picture of you in was it like tight jeans, like the skinny jeans? Yes. What was it?
Actual jeans, not stretchy pants.
And that was one where she cut off your name. She just like screenshot it quickly. And I'm like, who is that? She's like, it's Lisa. But you're living, like that's how I understand it is you're not like going through the holidays, uber concerned about eating that one piece of broccoli and not enjoying the holidays. Like,
yeah, no, I wore those tight jeans on Thanksgiving Day. That was brave.
But you did it.
Yeah. And I think one of the things too that I've enjoyed about, like I say, I don't want to have this conversation over and over with my girlfriend who we're always talking about, the elements of weight loss. But I'm excited to share wins. And, not everybody cares about like my pants problems or my pants victories, my pants experiences, but it's nice that like Jenna will just shoot me a text, be like, how's it going? And I'll be like, I got a new bra today. And she's like, yay, and it's like somebody who like genuinely understands the excitement and all the work that's gone into that. And, like if I were just to send that to anybody, they'd be like, okay, bragger over here. But it's, it's just kind of like that continued little support of like, yay, we can still celebrate these victories together, and that's been really cool too. Even just this past week. I don't remember what it was. Oh, my snow pants. Cause we got snow down here last year. I kid you not. The highest I've ever been was January of 2021. And, I had these snow pants that I hadn't worn in a few years, apparently, and I couldn't hardly get them up over my butt. And I definitely could not zip them. And they were falling off of me this last week. And so I sent that to Jenna and she was like, yay, snow pants experience, but I never thought I would have one of those in Texas anyways. But then also, just to see those, because it is hard sometimes, I see myself in the mirror every day. And so I'm like, I think I look mostly the same. Like I notice a little bit less here and there, but it is nice to see those really truly measurable things where, I'm not going to pull out a tape measure every day, but I am going to put clothes on every day for the most part. So for those little differences to add up, I mean, that's more to me than a scale or a tape measure would do anyways. So I think I got off.
No. First of all, wherever this goes again. Like the purpose of these conversations is I never know what people are going to say, right? It's not scripted. Sure. As you can see, it's not scripted. I want our moms to speak from their heart, their experience. And sometimes we talk about the most random things, but at the end of the day, if it matters to you, it matters to me. And I will say this, I told you Jenna screenshots and she'll send like a lot of the wins. It is really cool because, I see how excited she gets. We get all excited. And then it just reinforces, man, just like you said, when people are putting when people are putting in that work into themselves, it's there. I don't know. Again, that's why we're here. Like that to me is when I see moms like really actually put the work into themselves, because it's so easy not to. It's so easy to say, it's okay, I'll be last. It's okay. Don't worry about me, right? It's the classic, like, oh, I packed a picnic for everybody, or lunches at a picnic for everybody. And where's mine? Oh yeah, I forgot to pack myself. Like it's so easy to get in that trap. And so it really is exciting. Like we have little parties on our own little end, of all the wins that our moms have.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that too, because we try and explain this, that you don't want to measure everything all the time, like for sure. And that's life, right? Like who wants everything revolve? I won't say who, maybe there are people out there. I know I personally don't want my life revolved around grabbing a tape measure, grabbing a scale all times. Right. But if you put on a pair of pants, you're just like, oh, okay. Like,
right.
This feels good.
I guess I'll reach further back in the closet and see what else is back there.
Totally.
My husband is that new? And I'm like, no, it's actually really old. He's like, that's really weird that you're so excited. And then he's like, okay, I get it. That's exciting.
The older, the better, right?
Yeah, I know. And because he's all, I have admittedly, I have a clothes problem. And so he's always like, why do you still have all this stuff? And I'm like, because I really like it. And he's like, well, one day, aren't you just going to want to get all new clothes if you fit into those clothes? And I'm like, no, because I love these pants. And so I told him, I was like, see, I told you I love these pants. He's like, good,
because they've been in there.
We've traveled around with them for 10 years. So I'm glad you love them.
Do you remember how you found us? Were you just scrolling? I'm just curious. Most people say I don't know.
I really don't remember. So I could have sworn, because I started following you on Facebook, and I don't know how you ended up in my feed. I honestly thought that in my head, I made up that we had a mutual friend or something, but then I really thoroughly crept on you, and we don't. So I don't know how you ended up in my feed. And then I just kind of would, once you like watch someone's story, then the algorithm says, okay. And so I just kept watching, and then I followed, and then I reached out, and then it was probably almost a year ago that I started kind of watching.
Yeah.
Sounds really creepy when I say it that way.
Everyone says that, or they say, I don't know. But like, I think Rebecca, we put her story out, maybe a month ago now, but she was like, oh, I just creeped hard for long. And finally I was like, I need to,
because it was like June before we talked. So, or June or July. So like, half a year of just being like, I could have been there by now. I guess I'll.
But again, I just, talked to another mom too, who was like, she got into our Facebook group, and she was like, I just crept. And finally a couple months later. But when someone jumps on a call, like Dave will get off a call and be like, oh yeah, this person said she's been watching us for 6 months. I'm always like, good, like watch us for as long as you need to, because if you need, we'll be, I know what we do. We're consistent. And if I get more excited when people know more about us, because I feel like that trust builds up because you know that we're there.
Yeah. And like, that it's going to be something that, like, for me, it was, I wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page, and especially like you mentioned a keto or whatever, insert fad diet, whatever that is. Like, even in all the programs I've done, I've never done any of those because I know ultimately I'm after something that's going to be a long-term solution. And I may not, I have not found the right one until now, but that's always a goal of mine. So I always am very skeptical of, the quick fad diets. But I think especially with, the last 2 years that we've had as a society, and even beyond that with other issues in my life and other, just life, I wanted something supportive. I wanted something that was going to fill my cup, not take my cup away. And that's what I enjoy about all of your little videos and the encouragement from the women and from Jenna and from you is just, it's constantly filling your cup. And, I know some people have different ways of motivation. Some people like the kind of like boot camp method, or like somebody yelling at you. That's not me. I'm like a warm, fuzzy person. So I like warm, fuzzy, but also with boundaries. And so that's been, that's where Jenna comes in. Warm, fuzzy with boundaries.
No, totally. And it's funny because, and again, the longer you fill your cup, your uniform, your awesome uniform.
I say that my picked this out, but I actually bought this for myself because I thought it was adorable.
I love it. It just makes me smile every time I see it. No, I think that's awesome. And again, talking about that's like getting started a little bit slower. We try and talk to our moms, especially when we get started, is we're like, listen, this first month we're relationship based. So this first month is us getting to know you, right? And us getting to understand you. And it takes sometimes some people dive in and are just like, ripping off all the layers of their onions as fast as they can. And others kind of like peel that little fuzzy thing of the onion layer, but you're not even getting to the onion yet.
Right.
And it takes a little bit of time. And so it's our job to understand the person, because how are we going to coach you if we don't know what really makes you tick? Just like you said, there are some people that we work with who need a little bit more of like a, like, hey, this is what I need you to do. And that's how they respond. And then there's other people who definitely need, a little bit softer avenue, but that's our job. Our job is to learn about you. And, we're never going to, if you need us to yell at you, like that just won't be us, so if that's a person, that just won't be us. But there's definitely different ways to communicate to get you to be as successful as you need. Because at the end of the day, you can talk to a friend, you can talk to a family member, and they might tell you what you want to hear. But in order to get where you want to go, you need to be told what you need to hear.
Right.
But delivered in a way that makes you want to do it. And then all of a sudden you can look back and go, okay, I know what you were doing there. Thank you.
Right.
Okay. One more question and then I'll wrap this up. But we do have people that creep on us, and we do have people that are like, oh, this seems great, but I just don't know. Cause we're on the internet, and the internet can be a scary place, right? Like we just don't know. So if there was someone on the fence, and we have one toe in, one toe out, what would you let someone on the fence know about your time with Strong Mom or anything about Strong Mom?
I mean, being that y'all are relationship based, which is what drew me to you, it'd be, why are you on the fence? And how long have you been on the fence? And do you want to get off the fence?
Valid question.
Because a lot of it does come down to that. And from that, depending on the answer, it would just be like, okay, like this, here's a ladder, like help yourself out, get off the fence. I don't know. I don't have great words for that.
That was actually really good, but you're right. There's some people who say they want to change, but they don't really want to. Like, do you really want to get off the fence? Some people aren't ready yet.
Yeah. And especially if, like me, like I crept for a long time, and I could have probably kept on creeping for a while, but it was Jenna saying, do you want to get off the fence? Here's a ladder. I'm offering you a way off the fence. And so if you're ready, then you take the ladder. And if you're not, then you can creep a little longer.
Well, and that's why I wanted you to share your story, because so 45 pounds in how long?
Like 4 months.
So 45 pounds, 4 months, which is incredible, by the way. Like, you're freaking a stud. And this is what I want people to understand is if you are leaning towards getting off the fence, the more time, like, we're just going to pass more time.
Oh yeah.
Before you hit that, like I had said, I used your example. Actually, I'm pretending Dave's here. He's not. I had said to Dave, I go, and 45 was the number in my head. That's why I wanted to ask when we first jumped on to make sure I was still right. I go, Lisa's lost 45 pounds with us. I go, there's people who have been kicking our tires now for 6 months. I'm like, if they just would have come aboard, they could have that 45 pounds down too.
Oh, that is 100% always my thought. Anytime in the past that I kick myself and I'm like, if I had just done this, whatever it is, if I was going to go back to school, I could have already been done. If I had started this program, I could have been done. If I was going to, whatever, I could have been done. And even in the last couple months, like, I said, I choose to look at it as a celebration that I've maintained. Sometimes I get hard on myself and I'm like, if I had just pushed a little harder, I could have been down a little bit more. But I'm like, you know what? I'm doing great. I'm feeling great. And ultimately, like I still have all those tools. I'm still utilizing them. And so I can push harder when I'm ready to. And that will help that next set of weight loss to continue to be successful and sustainable and maintained. And so, yeah,
the time's I tell people the time's going to pass anyway. So you're going to hit a year from now. Where are you going to be, Yeah. But again, you have to be ready. So those that are on the fence, if you're interested, and you're just unsure, grab that ladder. That's what I'll say. No one's ever said that. Grab that ladder. We got you. We'll catch you. There's no even real way to fall. We got you.
I was going to say trust fall.
Totally.
My kids are really that right now. Mama, fall. And I'm like, oh God.
Oh God. Oh, your kids do catch you?
No, they fall on me.
Oh, I was going to be like,
is getting very, she's dense. She's getting up there. And I'm just like, you're like a human now. You can't do that without giving me a warning.
Totally. Isn't it great? They're applying trust. I thought you meant for a second you were trust falling. I'm like, oh, I would no.
No. One place I trust falls into my bed. So